Welcome back to Mosaic. Prior to the break, we were talking about standing up and speaking out against injustice, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. When you go to a college campus and you start to speak about what Israel is and what it means and what the accomplishments that it has made in the 60 years, which is extraordinary.
Extraordinary, right.
What's the response?
It's usually quite good. Remember that there's always going to be 10% that hate Israel no matter what Israel does or says. They are out to destroy Israel. There's always going to be another 10% that supports Israel, right or wrong. Then there's the 80% in the middle, and many of them have open minds. And if you can show them that Israel has contributed more to the world in 62 years than any other nation in the history of humanity, that they have done more for medical technology, environmental technology. I asked the students, how many of you support gay rights? Everybody raises their hand. How many of you support women's equality? Everybody raises their hand. How many of you like to support the environment? All the people raise their hand. How many of you know what one country in the Middle East does all of those things and what other countries don't? And you start making the liberal case, the progressive case, the case that young people admire and support, and it works, it helps. We shouldn't be giving up on college campuses because it's the next generation. Every time I see a college student out there, I say, that's the future Barack Obama. That's the future Michelle Obama. I remember Michelle Obama when she was Michelle Robinson. And I think of every student as the future president, the future chief justice, the future CEO of this, the future head of the World Bank. And we have to remember, those are our leaders in the future.
How are the Israel studies programs that are opening up across the country? What kind of progress are they making? Are they making an impact?
I would say moderate.
Moderate.
First of all, a lot of the chairs of Israel studies have been taken over by rabidly anti-Israel people.
Really?
And yeah, that's what's happened in several universities. And, you know, Israel studies, you can't tell them what to study, and they present a very anti-Israel perspective. Even Holocaust studies, a Holocaust study program at Claremont College, where the head of the Holocaust studies program compared the Holocaust to what Israel was doing to the Palestinians. This is the head of the Holocaust studies program. So just because you have a Holocaust studies program or an Israel studies program doesn't mean that students are learning the truth. Many of these programs, like any other programs, are used for propaganda purposes. Too many teachers use their platform to propagandize. I have a policy in my class. My students don't know my views when they're in my class. They want to read my views? Fine, I got plenty of books for them to read. But in the classroom, they get objective analysis, they get straight down the middle, they get all sides presented. I make the devil's advocate argument on points that I myself may agree on. That's what teaching is about. It's not propaganda. A teaching license is not a license to persuade people of your point of view, and too much of that is going on in college campuses today.
But then you have people that have made an impact in the world, like you wrote a paper on Desmond Tutu.
Yeah, horrible man.
Well,
horrible person.
Let's explain. He's a former poet laureate.
No, he's a former Nobel Peace Prize winner. The man is an absolute bigot. All he cares about is his people, and he
I mean, it was horrifying.
You should know the facts. I mean, he hates Jews, he hates Israel, he has said some of the worst things about Jewish people. Jews are very peculiar people. They are too aggressive. They're too powerful.
What about what he said about the Holocaust?
He said the Jews who died in the Holocaust suffered less than people who are under apartheid, meaning the Palestinians.
Yes.
Meaning the Palestinians. The people of South Africa know Bishop Tutu, and they don't like him particularly. You know, at a distance, he has that grin, but that beautiful face hides an ugly bigot. And we have to know the truth about that. Look, a lot of people like Jimmy Carter, too. A lot of people like Mel Gibson. People think well of Thomas Edison, who was an anti-Semite. People think well of Henry Ford. But all those people are going to be relegated to the dustbin of history because of their bigotry. And Bishop Tutu, yeah, he won the Nobel Prize, but so did Yasser Arafat.
Case for peace. You wrote the case for Israel, you wrote the case for peace. Okay, where are we?
Well, I think we're closer than we've been in a while. I think we have leaders on both sides who are pragmatists, not ideologues.
They don't want to sit down and talk.
They don't want to sit down and talk unless Israel stops the settlement building. It's like Abba Eban once said.
That's nonsense, though.
Yeah, well, no, they would like to make peace on their own terms. Abba Eban once said after the Six-Day War, it's the first time in history, the winners are suing for peace and the losers are demanding unconditional surrender. That's what the Palestinians are doing now. They say, all right, we'll talk to you about ending the occupation, but only if you stop doing A, B, C, D. They should sit down unconditionally. When I met with Fayyad, I said that. I said, you'll get a good deal. You were offered a good deal by Olmert. You were offered a good deal by Ehud Barak. You'll be offered a good deal by Benjamin Netanyahu. Just sit down and talk. You can't get a deal until you sit down.
You know something? There is such mistrust between the two of them. I don't know how there could ever be any kind of amiable sit-down discussion.
Look how much distrust there were between the Germans and the Americans, between the Japanese and the Americans. Within 3 years after the Second World War, we were in real peace. So it's possible. Look, the Jordanians and the Egyptians made a cold peace. Not a warm peace, but a cold peace with Israel. I see the potential for Syria making a cold peace, maybe eventually Lebanon.
Syria?
Yeah. Syria has a real interest in preventing Islamization and radicalization, and they have a motive to make peace. The real issue is going to be Iran. That's the only existential threat that Israel faces. And if Barack Obama, who I like and admire, if he allows Iran to become a nuclear weapons power, he will tragically go down in history as Neville Chamberlain and not Winston Churchill.
The world doesn't see all these sanctions as a weakness from the United States, part of the United States?
It's absolutely a weakness. When we took the military option off the table, we showed weakness. When we depend on sanctions, we show weakness. I'm hoping that it was America or Israel that put that computer virus that helped set back the Iranian program. That's better than a military attack. If Western democracies can destroy Iran's nuclear capacity without a military attack, that's much better.
What about North Korea getting involved with Iran, supplying?
Well, North Korea and Pakistan, through the Khan regime, have been supplying material. They're supplying rockets. It's a terrible threat, and in the end, there may have to be military action. I hope not. I would rather see this stopped without military action, but it can't be taken off the table.
Well, that's what I was going to say again. I was going to reiterate that, because if the United States says that the option is not off the table, then it shows at least that they have something. This way, they feel home free.
Absolutely. The Iranians right now feel they have no real
threat. It really is frightening.
No real threat. And many people in the know are predicting that Iran will develop nuclear weapons. And if that happens, as I said, Barack Obama's legacy will be destroyed. There will be no nuclear nonproliferation, which is one of his signature issues. There will be the greatest arms race in history. There will be increased terrorism under a nuclear umbrella. There will be vulnerability of the United States, our Western allies, Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. It will be, to quote President Obama himself, a game changer. You don't allow game changers like that to happen. It must become part of American foreign policy that Iran will never, ever, under no circumstances, be allowed to develop nuclear weapons. That has to be the constant. The variable is how it's prevented. Whether sanctions could conceivably be ratcheted up to work, I don't think so. Whether or not more covert operations can be successful, yes, I think they can be, up to a point. Whether or not the military threat has to be maintained, absolutely. Whether or not in the end military action has to be taken, I hope not, but it's better or less worse than Iran developing nuclear weapons.
Without question. It's like an 800-pound gorilla out there.
Yeah.
Very, very frightening.
Very
Meanwhile,
frightening.
we're going to go on another subject. You wrote this book.
A novel.
A novel.
Right.
The Trials of Zion. I read it. It's very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Your mother must be very pleased.
My mother would have been very pleased. She would have liked that. She loved novels, and she liked my writing.
But it's interesting, though, Alan, because you took history and put it into an exciting novel.
That's what I tried to do. What I tried to do is I wanted to broaden the base of my case for Israel, basically, to people who read fiction, not nonfiction. And it's been 50 years since Leon Uris's marvelous book, Exodus. I'm not as good a writer as Leon Uris, but I have tried my very best to create a panoramic view of the Israel-Palestine conflict. I liked the foreword, had a very nice review of it the other day, and the headline was, Alan Dershowitz kills the president, because it starts with a terrorist attack against major leaders that are trying to bring about peace in the Middle East, and then it involves my daughter, the character is based on me, obviously, and my daughter, I have a real daughter about that age, who ends up getting into all kind of problems.
I saw you in the book, I must
there's
tell you.
no question. I'm in the book, my daughter's in the book, my whole family and my friends are all in the book. And people I know are in the book. The characters, the Israeli characters, are all based on real people I know.
No, but what you did is you managed to portray the tensions and the differences that exist in the Middle East and in Israel, and how they try to coexist and the challenge. It's very, very well done.
Thank you. The highest praise I got was from an Arab student at Harvard who read the book and said, you really did justice to the Arab characters, to the Muslim characters. Yeah. You didn't create stick figures out of them. You made them into real people with real passions. You helped explain their motivations. I tried very hard to do that. I met with a lot of Arab and Muslim people in the Middle East in order to get a real sense of what they think.
Okay, so now you're going on, the next book is going to be of your life. This
That's
is
right.
my life.
That's right.
Okay? Now to sum it up, what are you trying to say about yourself?
It's very, very hard. It's very,
it is, it must
very
be difficult.
hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, I start out by basically saying that my ideology is a function of my biography. Who I am is where I was, who I sat next to, who I learned from, what experiences I had as a youth. So I'm trying to relate the process of growing up and being educated to my legal career, my political career, my pro-Israel career, and I'm trying to explain myself. Alan Dershowitz takes the stand. When you take the stand, you have to describe your motives, you have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You can't hold back. That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, when is this book coming out?
Oh, probably a year or so. You know, I've been lucky. I've had some of the most exciting cases imaginable, from you know, representing presidents and prime ministers to representing very unpopular and some popular people. And I want to give a lot of celebrities. I want to give a little of that. There'll be some juicy stuff in there too.
Alan, we have about a few minutes left. What are you going to say about the world?
Well, first of all, I think the economy will improve, and I think we'll see less unemployment, which is very important. Second, I think this is a very crucial time for the Middle East.
Yeah.
I would love to see President Bill Clinton get involved and play a more active role, because he is enormously trusted. Third, this will be a crucial year for Iran, whether or not Iran is allowed to develop or not develop nuclear weapons. And I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic, but I'm never passively optimistic. I think optimism is only justified if you seek it, if you go out and seek it. You know, the Bible says, tzedek, tzedek tirdov, justice, justice, must you chase after. The word is not shall you seek, even pursue. You must chase after it. It can never be passive. The struggle for justice never stays won. The struggle for Jewish values, for Israel, never stays won. You always have to keep fighting for it. Never rest.
And you will. Thank you, Alan.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being thank you for being with us, and thank you for being with us as well. Be with us again next week when we have another look into the Jewish world. Goodbye from Mosaic.